It starts with the hum, the traffic, the inbox, the endless ping of modern life. Rent reminders, price alerts. Another headline about how the American dream is now sold by the square foot. For so many, the map feels smaller every year, not because of distance, but because of cost. But somewhere beyond the skyline glare, there are still towns where mornings move slowly, where the coffee tastes stronger because time itself does, and where the word affordable hasn't vanished from the vocabulary. Imagine a place where your paycheck stretches further than your patience, where a yard means grass underfoot, not a postage stamp balcony. Believe it or not, those places still exist. Across the country, a quiet migration is underway. From California coasts to Carolina hills, people are trading congestion for calm. They're discovering that smaller towns aren't just cheaper, they're more human. And that less doesn't mean settling, it means breathing again. In this film, we'll travel through 10 real American towns, from heartland river cities to lakeside hideaways, guided by real data, real charm, and the kind of honesty you can't fake. No hype, no gimmicks. Just the truth about where life still feels possible. And stay with us, because the town at number 1 might just change how you define affordable living. If Peaceful Life calls to you, go ahead. Tap subscribe. It means more than you know. At number 10, we arrive in Wyandotte County, Kansas, where city energy brushes against open skies, and affordability hasn't yet gone extinct. This is Kansas City's quieter side, a place where the downtown skyline glimmers just beyond reach, but your mortgage doesn't chase it. Wyandotte is a study in balance, affordable access to metro amenities without the sticker shock. Here, the median home sits around $230,000 and rents hover near $1,000 a month. Rare numbers for any region tied so closely to a major urban hub. The cost of living lands comfortably below the national curve, giving families and first-time buyers something that's become a luxury elsewhere: room to breathe. You'll feel the working-class heartbeat of the county. Honest, unpretentious, and quietly proud. Neighborhoods here are connected, not curated. Community gatherings happen in church basements and little league fields, not gated cul-de-sacs. For remote workers, it's a sweet spot. Close enough to Kansas City's energy, far enough to hear your own thoughts. There are, of course, trade-offs. Some homes show their years, and certain streets tell stories of time before renovation budgets. And if you crave wide-open rural silence, the distant pulse of the city might still hum through your evenings. But for those who seek a life with options, real options, Wyandotte County offers a kind of middle ground the modern market rarely leaves open. It's a place where commutes are short, the coffee shops are earnest, and the price tags still whisper, "Welcome home." In the early morning, you can almost see it, joggers passing under soft streetlights, the horizon tinted gold over Kansas prairie, and a for sale sign swinging gently in the breeze, reminding you that in some corners of America, affordable doesn't mean impossible. Number 9 takes us to Youngstown, Ohio, a town where the skies feel wide, the prices feel kind, and the word affordable still means what it should. Once the pulse of steel and sweat, this Rust Belt city has learned a quieter rhythm, one that hums more softly now, but still carries a steady beat of pride. Rust Belt roots, soft reinvention, big value. That's the story here. In Youngstown, a median home runs around $140,000, less than half what you'd pay in many U.S. metros. Rent hovers between $900 and $1,000 a month, and day-to-day life costs noticeably less. It's not a town chasing trends, it's a town reclaiming its worth. You feel it in the people, modest, warm, steady. Streets lined with family-owned diners, quiet corners of local art, parks that look the same as they did in childhood memories. There's a comfort here, a familiarity that asks for nothing fancy. For retirees, budget-conscious buyers, or anyone craving community over chaos, Youngstown offers something rare, enough space for both your home and your hope. But every gift comes with weight. Economic growth here moves slowly, like the river that curves through downtown. Some neighborhoods wear the wrinkles of time, cracked sidewalks, tired storefronts, stories waiting for renewal. Yet those same streets carry potential for those who see beauty in rebuilding. At dusk, you can picture it. The hum of a small-town football game, drifting across the Mahoning River. The smell of barbecues rising from backyards where the mortgages are modest and the laughter feels earned. Youngstown may not shout its progress, but it doesn't need to. It simply stands, solid, unhurried, and affordable in all the ways that matter. At number 8, we're landing in Cleveland, Ohio, a city that still hums with big city energy, but without the big city price tag. Here, the breeze off Lake Erie feels like a quiet reminder that not every skyline comes with a six-figure stress level. City amenities, wallet-friendlier price tag. Cleveland is where culture and affordability still manage to coexist. The median home price sits around $205,000. Rents average $1,200 to $1,400 a month, and the cost of living rests about 19% below the U.S. average. For many, that difference means the freedom to live downtown, not just near it. This is an urban soul with a small-town heartbeat, a place of murals and markets, stadium cheers, and jazz echoes by the water. It's ideal for young professionals chasing opportunity, and for families who want the pulse of a city without the panic of its costs. In some neighborhoods, old warehouses are finding second lives as lofts, cafes, and galleries. In others, the past lingers proudly on red brick corners. That's Cleveland's charm. It doesn't pretend to be polished, but it's real, alive, and evolving. The trade-offs are honest ones. Some districts still wait for their renaissance. Not every street shines, and new construction tends to gather where investment flows. But that's the quiet promise here. To live in a city still writing its next chapter, where you can afford to be part of the story instead of priced out of it. And if you wander to the lakeshore at sunset, you'll feel the city exhale, murals fading to silhouette, cafes humming with evening chatter, and the lake wind brushing past. Cleveland reminds you that you can live by the water, near the art, inside the energy, and still sleep soundly knowing you didn't overspend to be there. Number 7 brings us to St. Louis, Missouri, a river town with big city flavor and housing prices that let you breathe. The kind of city where jazz once spilled through open windows, where the Mississippi still glides by like a living timeline, and where the word value hasn't been pushed out by speculation. Gateway to value, with culture and character. The median home price here hovers around $258,000, and rent for a 2-bedroom lands between $2,200 and $1,300. That's roughly 22% below the national average, an impressive figure for a metro that still offers art museums, pro sports, and skyline sunsets. St. Louis is the Midwest's quiet overachiever. It's got history in its bones and ambition in its skyline. Neighborhoods like Soulard, Tower Grove, and The Hill tell stories of immigration, music, and food passed down through generations. Families find homes with porches, not postage stamp balconies. First-time buyers find possibilities, not bidding wars. It's urban life that doesn't demand a financial surrender. But, as with any city in revival, you read it carefully. Some homes carry the patina of time. A few districts still balance between promise and progress. Schooling and safety shift by zip code, and investment comes one block at a time. Yet that's part of the St. Louis truth. A city honest about its work in progress, unpolished but proud. Then golden hour arrives. The sun warms the arch and the river turns to copper. You walk toward a neighborhood restaurant where laughter spills out onto the street, and nobody's comparing mortgage rates. They're just living. In St. Louis, life feels attainable again. Not extravagant, not experimental, just beautifully possible. At number 6, we find ourselves in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a city built on steel and grit, now softened by tech, art, and river light. Hills roll like folded blankets, bridges arc across every view, and the skyline feels close enough to touch. Yet somehow, the housing market hasn't caught the same fever as its flashier neighbors. Historic backbone meets future-leaning affordability. With a median home price around $225,000 and rents averaging $1,400 to $2,500, Pittsburgh stands as one of the few urban hubs where affordable still pairs with livable. The cost of housing sits about 19% below the national average, and that margin makes all the difference. Here, your salary can buy space, and your weekends can buy time. This is a city of contrasts. Creative minds working in old brick mills turned co-working studios. Rivers threading through neighborhoods where blue-collar roots meet startup ambition. The cultural foundation is deep. World-class universities, celebrated museums, and neighborhoods that feel distinct enough to have their own zip code personality. Whether you're a hybrid worker, a couple seeking balance, or someone who just wants an urban setting with breathing room, Pittsburgh delivers the rare combination of grit and grace. Still, it asks for a little flexibility. The hills will test your winter tires, and older homes often come with character that demands a paintbrush or a renovation fund. But those are the kinds of trade-offs that keep Pittsburgh's soul intact, a reminder that value doesn't have to mean uniformity. So picture this: a tram gliding over the Monongahela River, the skyline shimmering beneath you, and the thought settling in, here, your home doesn't swallow your life. It gives it back. Pittsburgh proves that progress and affordability can share the same bridge. Number 5 takes us to Detroit, Michigan, a city rewriting its script, one street, one mural, one heartbeat at a time. Once the engine of American industry, Detroit has transformed from symbol of decline to a story of resilience, where creativity, grit, and affordability now live side by side. Big city scale, modest price tag. With a median home price hovering around $175,000 and rents near $1,200 a month, Detroit offers one of the most accessible entry points into major metro home ownership anywhere in the U.S. The cost of living sits roughly 22% below the national average, meaning your paycheck stretches further, not just to survive, but to start something new. Detroit doesn't hide its past. You can still see the bones of its industrial might. The red brick factories now converted into art studios, cafes, and tech labs. The city breathes with the rhythm of reinvention. Downtown buzzes with small businesses and music venues, while neighborhoods like Corktown and Midtown blend old soul with new ambition. For buyers with courage and vision, this is a place where undervalued can turn into unforgettable. Of course, the story here is honest. Not every street is ready for its close-up. Some neighborhoods are still catching up, and infrastructure remains a work in progress. Commute times and school options vary, demanding a bit of patience and discernment. But Detroit has never been for the faint of heart. It rewards those who see possibility where others saw loss. Picture this: a crisp morning in Midtown. The sun catches the lettering of an old auto plant reborn as a coffee roastery. Street art colors the walls, music spills from a side door, and the air carries that unmistakable hum of comeback energy. Here, your mortgage doesn't just buy space, it buys a share in the city's revival. And for many, that's the real definition of value. At number 4, we land in Louisville, Kentucky, where bourbon flows smoother than the traffic, and the homes come with front porches, not panic attacks. This is a city that hums in a lower gear, big enough to feel alive, small enough to feel like it remembers your name. Southern ease, mid-sized city, surprising value. With a median home price near $300,000 and rent averaging between $100 and $2,300 for a two-bedroom, Louisville manages to stay comfortably below the national cost curve. Groceries, gas, and nights out follow suit. It's the kind of place where you can live decently, not desperately, where your paycheck has space to exhale. Louisville wears its heritage with charm. The air smells faintly of oak barrels and river wind, and the sound of a distant fiddle sometimes drifts through the heart of downtown. But beyond the bourbon and bluegrass, this is a city with real depth, a Midwestern work ethic softened by Southern warmth. Neighborhoods like the Highlands, Clifton, and Crescent Hill offer leafy streets, local cafes, and architecture, with just enough quirk to feel personal. Life here feels balanced. Families find schools and parks without endless commutes. Professionals appreciate the central geography, within a day's drive of half the country, yet far from the noise of it. And for those tired of chasing inflated coastal dreams, Louisville whispers a gentler promise: stability. Of course, the pace isn't fast, and that's the point. Growth comes measured, not manic. New developments take their time. But that slower rhythm is precisely what makes this city livable. So imagine a Saturday morning beneath maple shade, A farmer's market unfolding along a quiet street, coffee in hand, the smell of baked bread and sweet corn. You walk home knowing your mortgage didn't steal your weekend. Louisville doesn't demand you run to keep up. It invites you to stay a while. Number 3 takes us to Toledo, Ohio, the lake-edge city that still says yes when most others have long priced you out. It's a place where the horizon is wide, the breeze carries a touch of salt and steel, and the cost of a home doesn't drown your dreams before they start. Lakeside possibility at heartland prices. Here, the median home runs around $235,000, and typical rent for a modest apartment sits between $800 and $1,100. The cost of living? Comfortably below the national average, with fewer climate worries than the coastlines. For many, that's more than affordability. It's relief. Toledo has always been a working city, proud, grounded, a little gritty in the best way. Its industrial heritage still echoes through the warehouses and glassworks that built it, but something new hums beneath the surface. Cafes and maker studios are sprouting in reclaimed spaces, and the lakefront feels like an open invitation to slow down. You'll find families who've lived here for generations, sharing space with newcomers, who've traded coastal chaos for Midwestern calm. The charm here isn't loud. It's in the ordinary, a long walk by the Maumee River, a corner diner that still knows your breakfast order, the lake wind brushing against your jacket as sailboats drift by in summer. Of course, Toledo isn't chasing headlines or hypergrowth. The economy moves at its own pace, steady but unhurried. Some neighborhoods still carry that in-between feeling, not yet polished, but promising. Yet for the right buyer, that's part of the draw, the chance to arrive early, to be part of the quiet upswing rather than the aftermath of a boom. At sunset, the lake turns copper, the skyline softens, and you feel something rare, possibility without pressure. In Toledo, your home doesn't have to cost your peace. It simply gives you both. Number 2 brings us to the quiet lakeside charm of Grenada, Mississippi, a small town with big serenity and one of the most affordable waterfront communities in the entire country. Here, the mornings arrive slow. The air smells faintly of pine and rain. And affordability isn't a trend, it's a way of life. Lake life without the lake price. The median home sits around $123,000, and a typical mortgage payment, or rent equivalent, drifts near $700 a month. It's the kind of math that feels almost nostalgic. Groceries, gas, and daily living follow suit, keeping the cost of life refreshingly low. Grenada proves that you don't have to sacrifice beauty for balance. Set between Memphis and Jackson, this southern lake town feels tucked away, yet connected. Its streets still carry a hint of history: brick storefronts, church bells, neighbors who wave from porches. By afternoon, you'll find people fishing along Grenada Lake or gathered for a barbecue that lasts until the light fades. The rhythm here isn't about deadlines or deals. It's about days that belong to you again. For retirees and remote workers, it's a chance to trade hurry for horizon. For nature lovers, it's a daily postcard: mist on the lake, herons gliding across still water, the soft hum of cicadas after dusk. Life here moves on water's time, patient, steady, and full of reflection. Of course, it's a small town, which means fewer late-night cafes, fewer job openings, and a social circle you'll get to know by name. But maybe that's the point. Grenada isn't about excess. It's about enough. Picture a misty morning on the lake. A small fishing boat drifts through the fog, and the only sound is the slow pull of water against the hull. Your home cost less than half the national average, yet your peace feels priceless. In Grenada, Mississippi, affordability isn't an escape, it's a return. And at number 1, we arrive in Grafton, North Dakota, a town so quiet you can almost hear your thoughts settle. This isn't a place competing for attention, it's a place inviting you to exhale. Here, affordable isn't a compromise or a marketing trick, it's a promise, one that still holds true when so many others have broken it. Quiet, small-town value that still whispers possibility. With a median home price around $165,000 and rents between $800 and $1,000, Grafton sits in that rare space where money stretches and life slows. The cost of living is far below the national average, which means your paycheck buys more than shelter. It buys simplicity. Grafton feels like a town preserved from a different era, not because it's behind, but because it never lost sight of balance. Streets are lined with modest homes, each one cared for with quiet pride. You'll find neighbors who shovel each other's driveways in winter, and who still know the mail carrier by name. It's friendly without being nosy, reserved but never cold. For retirees, remote workers, and anyone yearning for calm, this is the kind of affordability that comes with dignity, not deprivation. You trade nightlife for northern lights, traffic for tree lines, and pressure for peace. Life unfolds at a different rhythm here, guided by the seasons, the sound of snow underfoot, and the promise of stillness most of us forgot existed. Of course, Grafton is small. Services are limited, nightlife is minimal, and ambition here takes quieter forms, raising families, building small businesses, tending gardens that outlast the headlines. But for many, that's the real definition of success. Picture it: a snow-softened street in late afternoon, smoke curling from chimneys, the air so crisp it almost rings. Your home, modest, warm, yours, sits behind a fence you can afford to paint. And as you stand on your porch, watching the light fade over the prairie, it hits you. Enough isn't settling. It's freedom. This isn't a story about finding something cheap. It's a story about finding enough. Choosing a place like Grafton, North Dakota, or any of the towns we've wandered through today, isn't settling down. It's settling in. It's choosing balance over burnout, proportion over pressure. These towns remind us that a house isn't meant to be a trophy. It's meant to be a home, a base for mornings without rush, evenings without worry, and weekends that actually belong to you. When your mortgage or rent doesn't swallow half your paycheck, the world outside your walls starts to open up again. There's room for hobbies, for travel, for late dinners with friends instead of late fees. You start to notice the simple things that money can't manufacture. The way light bends through old windows, the comfort of knowing your bills won't break you, the rhythm of a community that values time more than trends. Across America, these places still exist, unpolished, unpretentious, quietly alive. They remind us that value isn't just about what you pay. It's about what you get back. Peace, space, a sense of belonging that doesn't come with a monthly penalty. So as the sun slips down behind the grain elevators of North Dakota or the lakeside trees of Mississippi, imagine standing there, hands in your pockets, air crisp and kind. Your home cost less than you feared, and life, somehow, costs less too. You haven't escaped the world. You've simply found a corner of it that fits. Geography changes more than our address. It changes our rhythm, our priorities, the way we measure peace. Every line on the map carries its own kind of invitation. Maybe it's the soft lapping of a Mississippi lake. Maybe it's an Ohio street where your budget finally feels like it can breathe. Or maybe it's a North Dakota winter, quiet and clean, where you remember what stillness actually sounds like. If you've made it this far, perhaps one of these towns has already whispered to you, a place that felt possible, not perfect, but right. So, which one spoke loudest? Was it the lakefront calm, the hidden Midwest resilience, or the small-town hum where neighbors still wave from across the street? Tell us in the comments. Your story might inspire someone else's beginning. And if you're drawn to stories like these, honest portraits of affordability, dignity, and the dream of simply living well, you're in the right place. Subscribe for more journeys into towns where peace costs less, but means more. Because sometimes the best escape isn't to somewhere new, it's back to somewhere real. For real-world escapes, not fantasies.